Have you ever walked out of a salon with high hopes, only to catch your reflection later and whisper to yourself, "Why do I look older instead of younger with this bob?" If you've had that moment, I know exactly how it feels. You walk in with so much excitement, picturing a fresher, more confident version of yourself. You're convinced that this bob will be the key to a brighter face and a younger vibe. But then the cape comes off, and what stares back at you in the mirror isn't what you imagined. Instead of a radiant woman, you see someone who looks tired, maybe even a few years older. It's such a disappointing, almost unfair feeling, because hair is supposed to be your crown, the thing that shows off your spirit, not a curtain that hides your light. I've heard so many women share the same frustration. I still feel young and vibrant inside, but why does my hair make me look so different? And chances are, you've asked yourself that same question standing in front of your own mirror. That's exactly why in today's video, we're going to dig into the answers. I'll walk you through 7 common bob haircut mistakes women over 50 often make. Tiny details you might never think about, yet they can quietly add years to your look. The good news? With a few simple shifts, your bob can go back to doing what it was meant to do. Bring out your youthfulness, your elegance, and that timeless beauty that never goes away. And here's the part you don't want to miss. Stay with me until the very end, because I'm going to share one tiny styling trick that almost no stylist talks about. But once you try it, your bob will instantly feel softer, more modern, and most importantly, you'll feel like yourself again when you look in the mirror. Mistake 1. Going too dark with your color. Have you ever thought about going back to jet black or deep espresso brown, the same shade you wore in your 30s, thinking it would make you look younger? On paper, it makes sense. Dark hair feels powerful, elegant, even glamorous. It reminds you of a time when your energy felt endless. But here's the catch. That very choice can actually add years to your look once you're past 50. As we move into midlife, our skin changes more than we realize. Studies show that after 50, the skin produces 10 to 20% less melanin. That means our complexion gets lighter, less vibrant, and shadows become more noticeable around the eyes, smile lines, and any faint spots. When you place a block of solid black or dark espresso right up against that softer skin, the contrast can be harsh. Instead of highlighting your eyes or your smile, it puts a spotlight on the very things you'd prefer to soften. Picture this. You walk out of the salon under California's bright sun, or into Colorado's crisp mountain air. Instead of looking radiant, your dark hair throws heavy shadows onto your face, exaggerating every fine line. The overall effect isn't youthful. It's severe, sometimes even tired looking. And yet, if you just lighten the shade by 2 or 3 tones, suddenly the light bounces differently. Your skin looks warmer, your features softer, and your whole face feels more alive. I'll never forget Carol, one of my clients. She was 59 and decided to go back to a deep black color for her birthday, hoping to recapture that striking look she once loved. But within days, the comments started coming in. Not compliments, but worried glances. "Are you okay? You look tired." It broke her heart because she had put in the effort to look good, only to feel worse. After some hesitation, she agreed to try chestnut with a touch of caramel. The transformation was immediate. People no longer asked if she was unwell. Instead, they smiled and said, "You look refreshed." And Carol herself felt it too. Every time she looked in the mirror, she saw brighter eyes, a softer glow, and a lighter spirit. So if you're considering a color change, ask yourself, does this shade brighten my skin? Does it make my eyes sparkle? Or does it drag attention to the fine lines I'd rather not highlight? Don't be afraid to try warm tones like caramel, honey, or golden highlights. Just lifting your color slightly is like adding a natural filter of light, giving your face a healthy, youthful glow. Because at the end of the day, your hair isn't just color, it's the frame for your face. And when that frame is too dark, it can overshadow the beauty that's already yours. But even if you get the color right, the shape of your cut can still quietly age you. Before we move on to the next mistake, take a moment to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss another video packed with tips to help you feel beautiful and confident every single day. Mistake 2. The heavy one-length bob. Some hairstyles sound simple and practical, but end up carrying more consequences than we expect. The blunt one-length bob is the perfect example. On the surface, it feels easy. No complicated layers to manage, no styling fuss, just blow it dry and go. But that very convenience can turn into a double-edged sword, making women over 50 look heavier, tired, and less vibrant. Picture this. Your hair sits flat against your chin, falling evenly on both sides like a heavy curtain. Instead of letting light and movement play across your features, it boxes you in, pulling the eye downward. On a face that's naturally softened with age, where the jawline isn't as sharp as it once was, that straight, solid line can highlight jowls or sagging skin. Even your smile, no matter how bright, seems hidden behind a frame that feels too rigid. The reason is simple. A blunt bob has no movement. Hair falls in solid chunks with no softness or lift to counterbalance gravity. Visual studies in beauty psychology show that when hair creates a heavy straight frame around the face, the eye is drawn to the lower half of the face, exactly where signs of aging tend to show up first. I think of Linda, 62. She wore her one-length bob for more than a decade, and I understood why. It was easy, familiar, and safe. But slowly, she started hearing comments she didn't want to hear. "You look tired," or "Are you feeling okay?" What hurt most was that Linda still felt energetic inside, but her haircut wasn't showing it on the outside. One day, she finally decided to make a change. Nothing dramatic, just a few subtle internal layers, a slight bevel at the end so the hair curved in toward her face, and soft face framing pieces around her cheekbones. The difference was immediate. When friends saw her, they couldn't put a finger on what was different, but they kept saying, "You look so bright," or "You look younger." Linda later told me she had never realized how powerful just a few snips could be. The fix doesn't have to be complicated. Think in terms of movement. You don't need obvious layers or choppy pieces. Just enough softness so your bob no longer sits like a heavy curtain. Ends can be beveled slightly inward to follow your natural bone structure. Gentle framing around the cheeks draws the eye up, letting your eyes and your smile take center stage instead of your chin. If you're wearing a blunt bob right now, take a moment in the mirror. Ask yourself, is my haircut lifting me up or pulling me down? Does it move with me when I smile or turn my head? Or does it sit there, weighing me down? Layers can absolutely lift your face, but only when they're placed thoughtfully and in balance. And that's exactly what leads us into the next mistake. Mistake 3. The overly angled bob. Have you ever flipped through a magazine, spotted a haircut, and thought, "That's exactly the look I've been searching for"? For a long time, the sharply angled bob, especially made famous by Victoria Beckham, was everywhere. Longer in the front, cropped shorter in the back, hugging the jawline. It looked bold, modern, and chic. But here's the truth. This style isn't always the magic solution for women over 50. In fact, it can be the very thing that throws your proportions off balance. When the angle is too extreme, the eye is immediately pulled downward to those front pieces that fall all the way to the collarbone. Instead of lifting your face, it visually shortens the neck and broadens the shoulders. And at midlife, when posture and body shape naturally shift, that imbalance becomes even more noticeable. What's supposed to look edgy ends up emphasizing exactly what we'd prefer to soften. I'll never forget one client, 55 years old, who came in clutching a magazine photo. She was determined to get that dramatic, razor-sharp angled bob. And to be fair, at first it looked trendy, at least in the salon chair. But just a few casual photos later, she realized the issue. Her neck looked shorter, her shoulders looked wider, and the long front sections were casting shadows across her face. When she came back, she sighed and told me, "I don't see myself in the mirror anymore. I see someone else. Heavier, harsher." The fix isn't giving up on angled bobs altogether. The secret is moderation. Instead of a dramatic plunge in the front, opt for a softer forward angle, where the cut gradually slopes from the nape to the chin. Just that slight adjustment completely transforms the effect. Suddenly, the neck looks longer, the shoulders slimmer, and the hair itself moves with a natural flow. When I reshaped that client's cut with a gentler angle, she looked at her reflection, smiled, and whispered, "Now I feel like myself again." If you're tempted by a sharply angled bob, try this quick test in the mirror. Cover the extra long front sections with your hand and imagine them shorter. Ask yourself, does this angle actually flatter my neck and shoulders, or is it dragging me down? Sometimes just a few centimeters can make all the difference, because a haircut doesn't just change how you see yourself, it changes how others perceive you, too. An angle that's too harsh can make you look rigid, while a softer slope brings out grace and lightness. And remember, true style doesn't always come from drama. More often, it comes from harmony. But sometimes the problem isn't the angle, it's simply letting the bob grow too long. Mistake 4. Letting your bob grow too long. Sometimes we think that keeping a bob a little longer will make it feel softer and more feminine. And in some cases, that's true, but only up to a point. Once the hair drops past the chin, and especially when it falls below the shoulders, the bob loses its clean, youthful shape. Instead of framing and lifting the face, it starts to drag it down, making it look longer or heavier. Think of it this way. The bob was designed to balance proportions, to hug your features, and bring light to your face. But when the length goes too far, the hair weighs everything down. On a face that's naturally softened after 50, where the jawline isn't as sharp as it used to be, extra length only highlights sagging. The result isn't sleek or polished, it's more messy and weighed down. The reason comes down to weight and structure. Longer hair pulls everything south, flattening the shape and stealing the volume that gives a bob its definition. And if you're petite, a bob that stretches past the shoulders can make your entire frame look shorter and out of balance. I know this from experience. At just 5 feet 2, I once decided to let my bob grow past my shoulders. In the mirror, it seemed fine, even a little romantic. But when I looked back at photos, I was shocked. I looked shrunken, smaller, drained of energy. The moment I cut it back up to chin length, the reaction was completely different. Friends told me I looked taller, slimmer, and that my whole face looked brighter. The fix is simple. It's really about discipline. Commit to trimming every 6 to 8 weeks to keep the shape intact. The ideal length depends on your face. For round faces, stopping at the cheekbones or chin creates a slimming effect. For longer faces, you can extend to just above the shoulders to add balance. But whatever you do, don't let it fall below the shoulders. At that point, it stops being a bob altogether and turns into an in-between style that loses all its impact. Here's a trick you can try at home. Stand in front of the mirror and use your hand to cover the hair below your chin. Imagine your bob ending there. Then cover it again to imagine it at shoulder length. Which version lights up your face and feels lighter overall? That simple exercise can tell you exactly what length is right for you. A bob is one of the best hairstyles for women over 50 because it's versatile and effortlessly youthful, but the secret is controlling the length. Don't assume an extra inch or two won't matter. In reality, those few inches can be the difference between looking fresh and polished or heavy and tired. Even if the length is right, too much thinning at the ends can make the bob lose its strength. Mistake 5. Over-thinned ends. Have you ever looked down at the ends of your hair and noticed they're so thin they almost look lifeless? It's something many women over 50 deal with, especially when a stylist gets a little too heavy-handed with layering. The idea is usually to make the cut feel lighter and reduce bulk, but instead, the ends end up looking stringy and weak, with no fullness to anchor the shape. This becomes even more obvious in midlife when hair naturally changes in texture. Strands grow finer, they don't grow as quickly, and overall density isn't what it used to be. Add too much thinning on top of that, and the hair doesn't just look light, it looks sparse. And with a bob, the ends are everything. They define the shape. A solid, healthy line at the bottom can brighten your face and give an instant youthful vibe. But when the ends are whittled down to nothing, it throws off the whole look. Instead of polished, it reads as limp and lifeless. I think of one of my longtime clients. She always had fine, soft hair to begin with, but her previous stylist had a habit of carving out too many layers underneath. Right after the cut, it looked airy. But within a few weeks, the ends got so thin she used to joke, "It feels like I'm just growing threads instead of hair." When she finally came to me for a change, I suggested we keep the bottom blunt, with almost no thinning at all. The difference was striking. Her hair didn't magically grow thicker, but because of the clean line, it looked stronger, fuller, and healthier. She studied herself in the mirror, smiling wide, and said, "I finally feel like my hair looks healthy again." The secret is knowing where to stop. Instead of overlayering, keep the base of the bob solid, or only thin very slightly on the inside. That firmness at the bottom gives the cut weight, enough to frame the face without dragging it down. And if you want movement, you can always add layers up top or around the cheekbones while keeping the ends full. That contrast, light on top, strong on the bottom, is what makes the bob look youthful and balanced, not sure if your hair has been over-thinned. Try this little test. Stand under natural light, push your hair to the sides, and look closely at the ends in the mirror. If you see more empty space than actual hair, or if your bob no longer forms a clear line, chances are you've fallen into this mistake. The best part is, it doesn't take much to fix. A simple change in how the ends are cut can give the illusion of thicker, healthier hair. Your face will look sharper, your whole style will feel more energized, and people will notice. I've had so many clients tell me that once they switched to a blunt bob, friends kept saying, "Your hair looks so much thicker." And honestly, it wasn't just their hair that looked stronger, it was their confidence too. But while too much thinning is a problem, having no layers at all can be just as aging. Mistake 6. No layers at all. Have you ever noticed that some bobs look neat and polished, but somehow lifeless? That's exactly what happens when a bob has no layers. At first glance, it feels safe, straight, sleek, tidy, almost like a helmet wrapping around your face. But the longer you look, the more it feels stiff, heavy, and boxed in. Here's the thing. After 50, our faces need softness more than structure. The sharp angles we had in our 30s have softened. Cheeks can look fuller, the jawline less defined, and sometimes there's a little sagging around the chin. A blunt, one-length bob with no layers doesn't disguise that. It emphasizes it. Instead of blending with your features, it frames them like a hard border, making every little detail stand out. The result? Your face feels trapped inside a hair helmet, with no movement, no flow. I think of Susan, 55, a lovely woman who always felt self-conscious about her fuller cheeks. She thought a no-layer bob would hide them, but the opposite happened. Because the hair sat stiff and flat, her cheeks looked even more pronounced. She began to hate photos, worried her face looked too round. After much hesitation, she let me add a few soft layers, just around the cheekbones and chin, and gave the crown a little bit of lift. The change was instant. Her friends immediately noticed, saying, "You look fresher." And most importantly, Susan told me she felt like she'd finally escaped the rigid frame her old haircut had created. The fix doesn't require anything drastic. Layers don't mean your hair has to look choppy or lose its shape. It's all about placement. A few wisps cut around the cheekbones draw attention upward, highlighting your smile. Soft layering at the chin lightens the jawline. A touch of lift at the crown creates movement and youthfulness. Suddenly, your bob isn't helmet-like anymore. It becomes a frame that flatters, not confines. Here's a simple test. Stand in front of the mirror and gently shake your head. If your bob doesn't move at all, that's a sign it's missing life. At this stage in life, your hair doesn't need to be complicated, but it absolutely needs to move, because every tilt of your head, every laugh, every glance should feel natural, not stiff. And sometimes it's not about the cut itself, but about how we style and maintain it every day. Mistake 7. Overstyling with heat and products. A beautiful bob is meant to feel natural and effortless, but sometimes it's the daily styling habits that strip it of exactly that. Many women believe the more products they use, the sleeker they press it, or the more tightly they curl it, the better it will look. More polished, more professional. The truth, it usually has the opposite effect. The hair ends up flat, dry, and heavy, while the face loses its brightness and energy. There's a simple reason. After 50, the scalp produces less natural oil. That means strands become drier, more fragile, and prone to breakage. Add in frequent flat ironing or curling with high heat, and the outer cuticle layer of the hair gets worn down, taking the shine with it. Then, when you pile on gels, hairsprays, or heavy mousses, your bob doesn't look sleek. It looks suffocated, pressed against the scalp, weighed down, lifeless. And so many women ask, why does my hair feel weaker the more I care for it? The truth is, it's not the care, it's the overdoing. One of my closest friends went through this. Every single day, she would flat iron her bob until it clung tightly to her face. She thought the straighter it was, the younger and sharper she'd look. But within months, her hair started thinning. The ends turned brittle, and all the shine disappeared. I remember one morning, she touched her hair and sighed, "It feels like my hair is dying." I finally convinced her to switch things up, skip the flat iron, use a round brush and a blow dryer to lift the roots, and finish with a touch of lightweight mousse for volume. The result stunned her. For the first time in years, she smiled and said, "I feel like my hair finally breathes again." And she was right. Her face looked brighter, lighter, and free from that weighed-down look. The solution isn't to swear off products or tools altogether. It's about balance. Reach for a lightweight mousse or a volumizing spray instead of heavy gel. Keep your blow dryer on a medium heat, not the hottest setting. If you want curls, go for big, loose waves instead of tight, rigid ones. And most importantly, give your hair a break. Let it air dry on days when you don't need to look extra polished. Sometimes that little bit of freedom is exactly what makes your hair look healthier and more youthful. So the next time you look in the mirror and see your bob plastered flat to your head, stiff from too much hairspray, ask yourself, am I really making my hair look better? Or just covering up tiredness with product buildup? A little natural lift at the roots, a little movement when you turn your head, that's the true sign of healthy, vibrant hair. Before we wrap up, let me give you one bonus mistake that almost everyone makes without even realizing. Bonus tip: avoid over-curling the ends. Some styling habits seem harmless, even standard practice at one point in time, but can actually make your look feel dated. One of the most common is curling the ends of a bob too tightly, creating that uniform inward curve. This style was everywhere in the 90s, when perfectly tucked under ends were associated with being neat and polished. But for women over 50, this little detail can backfire, boxing in the face and drawing attention to the very things you'd rather downplay. When the ends are curled too much, the hair creates a closed loop around the jaw and chin. Instead of opening up the face, it makes it look wider, heavier, and the neck shorter. In natural light, that hard curl often casts shadows across the face, giving the whole look a stiff, outdated feel. I've had women tell me they felt like they were looking at an old photograph of themselves, not the woman they are today. And the reason is simple. That retro style belongs to another era. It was fashionable 20 or 30 years ago, but worn exactly the same way today, it rarely looks fresh. Instead, it suggests you're hanging on to an old habit. And let's be honest, women at any age deserve a look that reflects the present version of themselves, not one trapped in the past. I know this firsthand. For years, I was devoted to curling my bob ends tightly under, convinced it made me look polished and professional. Then one day, I decided to try something different. Instead of clamping the curl all the way at the ends, I started the bend higher up, around mid-shaft, and let the ends fall softly. That very day, an old friend saw me and exclaimed, "You look like you just stepped out of a modern shoot." It was such a small change, but I felt like I'd walked straight out of a current fashion magazine. Fresh, vibrant, alive. The solution couldn't be easier. You don't have to give up curling altogether. Just change your approach. Start the wave higher, keep the ends relaxed instead of tightly tucked. Use a larger barrel and moderate heat, and most importantly, let your hair move. When you turn your head or smile, those soft, loose ends will sway naturally. That little bit of movement is what makes your bob feel youthful again. So, here's a quick test. Stand in front of the mirror and look at your ends. If they curl into a perfect closed C shape, gently smooth them out and see how different it feels. Instead of a face boxed in by hair, you'll see an open frame that highlights your eyes and your smile. Sometimes the smallest tweak, like loosening the curl, is all it takes to bring your whole look into today. After 50, the beauty of a bob isn't about clinging to your younger years. The real secret lies in refining the little details. A slightly lighter shade, a softer angle, or a few well-placed layers. Those small, almost effortless tweaks can completely brighten your face, make your hair feel lighter, and give your overall style that touch of elegance that never goes out of fashion. Always remember, your style is your freedom. It's not about fitting into a mold. It's about expressing who you are. If today's video gave you fresh ideas for yourself, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend or sister, because sometimes that's exactly the encouragement someone else needs to rediscover her confidence. And if you're especially in love with bob haircuts, click the link in the description. I'll walk you through 5 bob styles that can instantly make you look up to 10 years younger. And before we wrap up, let me leave you with this. The most beautiful time to love your reflection is not 10 years ago. It's right now. The best moment to embrace the woman in the mirror is today.